Welcome to the Wildlife Wire. I'm Mark Searles,
And I'm Samantha Miller.
and this is your source for wildlife news and the people that make it. Hey, everybody, quick update on the first story about Colorado wolves. The wolf that was killed, Wolf 2405, is in fact a male that was born last year to the Copper Creek pack. Another update on Colorado wolves is Wolf 2507 has also died, but we are not sure what the cause of that wolf's mortality is.
All right. How are you, Mark?
Doing pretty well. I was told that I won the Emmy Award for Best Presentation at the Western Watersheds Healthy Public Lands Conference last week, so that's exciting.
Ooh, they give Emmys out at that conference?
No, but but someone declared that there shall be an Emmy given to me. So any minute now, I'll put it up on my mantle.
Oh, perfect. It should be your background on Zoom. I told you I'm in a random obscure hotel room in Reno after a week in Washington of riding around Okanogan County and looking at different areas where wolves are, which is fun. I am now on my way to Tahoe for the Center for Biological Diversity's all staff retreat. So, making a world tour of the West right now.
That's exciting. Is there such thing as a non-obscure hotel room in Reno?
I don't think so. I think all of them are very obscure. There are many a casino here. I am looking forward to going up the mountain to Tahoe soon, which will be a nice escape from from Reno.
Yeah. Well, shall we not escape the tragic news that is what happened to Wolf 2405 in Colorado?
Let's not escape that. And so folks know, we did have Colorado Parks and Wildlife kill a wolf in response to livestock predations. You have the number of that wolf. Which wolf, what wolf, where, Mark?
Yeah, so 2405, a member of the Copper Creek Pack, which had formed last year in Grand County, Colorado. The wolves were trapped by Colorado Parks and Wildlife for relocation last August. During that time, the father passed away from injuries that he had sustained previously. And so then it was mom and four pups. There was a fifth pup that they never caught. And so then this early spring, like in March, the remaining members of the pack were then released in Pitkin County, which is like the Aspen area of Colorado. Um, and and then have now been in conflict with some livestock there. And so it's really tragic news. As far as the identity, I've been receiving conflicting reports of it was mom or it was a yearling from the pack. I'm not quite sure which way to believe. It seems like more and more information is leading toward the the wolf being a male yearling. But in Colorado Parks and Wildlife's official press release, they did not specify gender. They did not specify, whether it was mom or one of the yearlings. So either way, I mean, it's just a tragic story. I keep thinking about if these were humans, and I mean, this would be quite the epic tearjerker of a movie where they've been moved, then from one state to another, and then found love and thought that the tragedies of you know being torn from their families were over with. I'm always conflicted with reintroductions because I mean there is that tragic bit at the beginning. You can't escape, right? There are you are removing members from their families,
Mm.
and then being caught again and then released, and then now one of the members has been lethally removed from their other living family members. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on it?
Do you mind if I wildlife for all you for a second and talk about how we sanitize language on wolf killing?
Tell me.
Yeah,
I said lethally removed.
I you did, and I wanted to flag it just because this is killing nonetheless. And I think that your family saga is probably a great parallel or a great way to show what's really happening here because wolves are just such intelligent animals and they do have strong family structures. So to have the female wolf, which came from Oregon, be removed from her family, brought to Colorado, where we have all of this hope in my home county. I was really excited when those wolves were released in my backyard, personally, just so I could engage in that a little bit more. She found another wolf. She settled down. She had the first successful wolf family in Colorado from reintroductions. And then with those predations, um, yeah, to have Colorado Parks and Wildlife trap that family and then leave that one pup behind. I mean, the Copper Creek pack story is it's a tragedy. It's really a tragedy, and the tragedy continues. My thoughts are that lethal removal doesn't work. It may make some people feel better that it looks like Colorado Parks and Wildlife is doing something, but at the end of the day, the best and only scientifically proven way to stop predations are preventative, non lethal measures. It's having guardian animals out there, it's having donkeys out there are great for all different kinds of animals. It's guardian dogs, groups of them, electric fencing, bring animals in when they're calving or lambing. And in my week in Washington, all of those things were in play. And this sheep producer had zero predations throughout her time producing sheep. And she also has active video of wolves running down her road in a pack. So I think it
This is
can.
in Washington.
Yes, in Washington state. So I think it can happen. And I know there's folks doing this well in Colorado too. I don't think anyone's happy that it came to this. I just hope that the agency is transparent, that the decision to kill wolves is a social human decision. It's not a decision for the wolves, and it's not a decision that will ultimately deter conflict. So there's my take on it. I won't go on a soapbox too long on it, Mark, but it's really devastating. And as we get more details, I think we'll be able to understand the situation better and see how we can do better in the future by people and wolves.
Yeah, it, it's really interesting too because in CPW's press release, so the ranchers that are involved, so it appears from what I'm reading is that it was multiple ranches involved, and there were four different predations on livestock, ranging. So there's one on the 17th of May, and then the 23rd, 24th, 25th. During that time, there was the first one was an injury to a calf. The the 23rd and 24th had one deceased calf, and then on the 24th there was one injured calf, and then on the 25th again one injured cow and an injured calf. These areas had undergone site assessments between December 24th of 2020 or December of 2024 and January of 2025, and they had removed carcasses, buried the carcass pits, cleared old bones and potential attractants from grazing areas. They relocated cattle. They continued using scare devices and increased presence by CPW contracted range riders and then also privately hired riders. So, I mean, it sounds like they did a lot of things. Like, where was the breakdown? Is my concern. It seems like they had a lot of hands on deck.
Right. And the breakdown really could go all the way to before the wolf came to Colorado. You know, we can go all the way to the beginning, and that some of the wolves we know from the first Oregon reintroductions were involved in predating packs in Oregon. So we know that some of those wolves had been exposed at least to that type of behavior. But I don't know. I think a full, thorough assessment of where the breakdown happened is important. And hopefully we can learn from this tragedy. Again, if we can learn and do better, I think that's really, really critical.
Yeah. And the thing that concerns me too is that immediately I've read other news articles and seen interviews where the immediate response was not from the ranching community, wasn't like oh, well, thank you, CPW, for doing this. It was, we want more of them. We want all of them killed
Yeah, I think that
from that pack.
yeah, and I think that's some people in that community. I think other people in that community are pretty upset that they felt that it came to this. So I certainly want to respect the diversity of opinions throughout livestock producers and throughout that industry. But
Yeah.
I think once you flip the switch on killing wolves, it's hard to unflip it. And that's, I think, the biggest concern of mine is that now CPW has told the story that this is an option, right? That if you have a problem wolf near you, we will kill that wolf for you. Or we can if you have enough problems with it. And my hope is that this doesn't become a pattern, that we don't see this happen more and more, and that we can, turn the switch back off again.
Yeah. But I also believe that there are ranchers out there in that area that feel bad for this wolf family. Unfortunately, their voices are never going to get out, right? So you're going to get that one guy saying, "I want all of them killed," and even if someone disagrees with that, it's not worth it to them publicly to come out and say that.
Right, because you don't wanna upset your neighbors, and I've had Grand County is a large producer area, especially on the west end of Grand, and a lot of conversations I've had with folks that are producing is that they also feel bad for the wolves. So I think that there's certainly a level of sympathy too, for the wolves as well. So I just want to be cautious so we don't paint any situation with broad strokes. Same thing with agency employees, or same thing with, as we might be labeled animal welfare extremists or environmentalists. I think that there are a lot of nuances to each individual participating and a lot of nuances to each individual wolf. So until we really get a better assessment, I'd like more transparency from the agency. I think that helps all of us really tease out what happens. I think that transparency is key for everybody involved. So having more, publicly available reports on predation situations would be really helpful. But again, I just my heart hurts that this happened, and my hope is that it won't happen again.
Yeah. Yeah. I think beyond just releasing more information, I mean, I think this is an opportunity for like Eric Odell, who is the Wolf program manager, to hold a press conference, right?
Right.
Like, I know he cares about these wolves. Like his whole life is wrapped up in these animals, and he can speak to these questions that may not come out in a press release. And I think that that would be the way that I would handle it if I was the agency, is allow for a back and forth exchange with the media and with the public.
Yeah, I completely agree with that, Mark. And I'd like to see CPW, Colorado Parks and Wildlife, be out front of this a lot more and have their people that are wolf experts talking to the media and to the communities in a public way a lot more. So let's hope we see that going forward. We have better stories for folks for the rest of our news. And thanks for taking a deep dive with us into some of Colorado wolf predations. I have another dive we can take if you want to.
An otter dive?
An otter dive. That's right. You ready to go move on?
Yeah, I don't have any otter things to say about wolves this morning.
I have some otter things to say about otters, though. So I have good news on sea otters, and we're taking an otter dive into the Pacific Ocean, off the coast of Oregon and Northern California. And they're the Silitz tribe, and I may have totally ruined that word, and I apologize, but the Silitz tribe received $1.56 million to reintroduce sea otters off the coast of Northern California and Oregon. And this is a win-win-win. Right now, that area has experienced a disappearance of kelp forests. And kelp forests are not only huge ecosystems for the ocean, they provide red abalone, and they've had a bunch of issues with urchins and warming waters. And they've killed more than 90% of the kelp forests off the coast of Northern California and Oregon.
The urchins, right? Are they come
Yeah,
in
the
and
urchins.
wipe them out?
Yeah, yeah. And so those urchins and warming water. So we've got climate change and we've got, this swarm of urchins. And so a recent study found that the kelp forest off the coast had declined by 73% over a 12-year period. So kelp forests are not doing great in that area. And that's the purple sea urchins that are overgrazing the kelp, which they think is largely to blame. And so the exciting piece is the solution is a natural one, and that is to bring the sea otters back into the area. There had been an unsuccessful reintroduction attempt of sea otters in the area in the 1970s, but now this is a partnership between multiple tribes to bring sea otters back again. They have a close relationship to the species, and they believe that these otters will help with the urchin problem and help restore the kelp forests, which, you know, it was interesting. One of the spokespeople said, you don't have to care about otters, but if you care about oxygen anywhere in the world, kelp forests help with that. So if we like to breathe,
I'm pro oxygen.
yeah, if we all are pro oxygen, then you're pro kelp forest and pro otter. Uh, Otters were decimated in the area before, largely because of the fur trade. We know that commercial sales of furs, especially wildlife furs, can drive animals and different species of animals to near extinction. And so it's an exciting opportunity, and I'm looking forward to see what these little otters could do. I love me a good sea otter, and it'll be interesting to see how the ecosystem is restored and if gray whales and other species start coming back to the area too.
Yeah, that'd be great. So we got otters eating urchins,
Mhm.
and then so that solves that side of the problem. You said climate change. Will the otters be swimming with bags of ice? Uh,
No, I would love to give them some packs of ice, so I bet they'd love that. No, the kelp forests help offset that. They
so
keep the
okay,
oceans cool. Yeah.
okay, okay. I would like to see the otters. The University of Georgia Bulldog, Uga, who goes to all the football games,
Uh-huh.
he sits on a bag of ice on really hot days at the stadium.
Oh, does he? That sounds
Yeah.
good.
So maybe we can get Uga in touch with some of these otters and figure out a plan.
On a little raft just to go visit everybody, a little ice
Yeah.
raft.
But no, that makes complete sense how the kelp forests help with that situation.
Yep, otters, kelp forests, and we can all work together. So let's fingers crossed, and a lot of hope for the otters going back to that area and for the tribes working to reintroduce them.
Yeah. So I think most people have heard of otters eating urchins.
Mhm.
What about bobcats eating pythons?
No, I haven't heard of that, Mark. Tell me about that.
So bobcat kills huge Burmese python in Everglades. What other Florida animals hunt pythons? So this was really fascinating to me because we often hear the one side of the pythons in Florida where they're decimating a number of populations of species down there.
Right.
I didn't know about the other side of it. And so what happens is some of the researchers there in Florida will put like tracking devices in pythons, and they are called like scout pythons. And so then they can monitor these these pythons and their activities, and if they're mating, if they're bringing in, this was a male python that this bobcat killed, and um, and so but the reason that they track them is to just see what's happening with these pythons, and so this was like a 13-foot Burmese python that a bobcat killed.
Wow, scrappy little bobcat.
Right? I mean, when you think about the damage that a domestic cat can do, it puts it a little more in perspective. But this was like a 13-foot long, 55-pound python, and so the article goes on, and they have video of the bobcat at the kill site, and but they go on to show other animals that have feasted on these invasive pythons. One is there was a video that was captured in 2024 on Thanksgiving Day of a large alligator nicknamed Godzilla. And Godzilla was hauling a massive Burmese python through the water in the Everglades. And they say Godzilla is a massive alligator. This video, I mean, he is literally half the size of the python.
No.
Yeah, and he's swimming along with this python in his mouth. So that makes sense. Alligators eating pythons, right? I mean, that's
Yeah.
a
They're both in the water doing.
big beast versus big beast. Yeah. Yeah. So then who else does that? So in May of 2021, a cottonmouth, which is in the pit viper family, and it gets its name because when they often will open their mouths up, they'll be coiled up, and then if a perceived predator comes, they gasp and have this big white open mouth. So Cottonmouth had been confirmed eating a juvenile python, and they showed X-ray of the python in the cottonmouth's belly, which is kind of sad because I imagine they killed that cottonmouth to get that.
Yeah.
So that's sad. But then also Florida king snakes have eaten Burmese pythons, and then also even so there was a bear. They weren't sure if the bear was scavenging or if the bear actually killed a python, but a biologist was pretty confident that the bear actually killed the python. Um, then we have birds that will often feast on these young snakes as well. So, and then they have these human challenges. So the Florida Python Challenge, which is kind of upsetting to me because this falls in the like wildlife killing contest.
Yeah. Yeah. This is.
Like they pay a fee and then they go out. They have a week to kill as many pythons as possible, and so I don't really like that model so much. So that's another way pythons are being killed. So yeah, so really interesting. I'm I'm kind of happy that the pythons are now like established in the they are also being seen as prey.
Right. Part of the ecosystem
Yeah,
more.
and not just the predator, super predator coming in and wreaking havoc. Ideally, we wouldn't have them to begin with. The most of them either were intentionally released or escaped. Sometimes they escape during hurricanes, and find that the the outside venue is much nicer than a glass aquarium.
Yeah.
So, or people get them and they're small and then they realize, I can't keep this 12-foot snake in my one bedroom apartment anymore. I will just go outside and release, which is an awful idea. So really fascinating to me. Go Bobcat. Definitely punching above his weight.
He is punching above his weight. It reminds me of my kid has this book called Who Will Win? And it's different animals facing off with each other with their different skills. And it seems like we've got a bracketed system for the python now, as far as that ecosystem goes. So very interesting stuff. Thanks for sharing that story, Mark.
Yeah, never underestimate a cat.
I won't. I won't ever again.
All right. Well, thanks for listening. We'll be back with you on Thursday for an interview with the executive producer of the Snake and the Whale documentary. This has been an episode of the Wildlife Wire with me, Mark Searles, and my co-host, Samantha Miller. Thank you for listening.